You can see I've pre-sectioned out, I'll talk about these clips a little bit later, the front, kind of everything that's on the forehead and the face. The shape here was already short, but it was kind of a short graduated shape, so the inside was considerably longer and the edges were shorter. So I wanted to, first of all, practice using this kind of splicing technique that I really kind of learned from my friend Michael Polsinelli, another razor cutting master. You'll see I'm working with the guarded blade today, which is advised for this type of technique. Many of us over the years have maybe seen people take sections and when they want to, and then kind of use a lot of the blade. I never really liked the effect or the feeling of that. And then I saw Michael doing it just with like the tip like this. And I thought that that was something I wanted to try. So I've been practicing it and using it more and more in my work. You can see I'm working a little bit shorter at the crown and a little bit longer towards the front. And this is going to fall over this, which is again going to be cut short to long. So it'll give it a lot of nice movement and softness. Just working through very simple sections from front to back. Trying to keep them pretty much on base, not trying to build a lot of weight or over direct, because I'm not trying to build a lot of squareness in the shape. You can see you just catch it through the front and you can get this nice kind of splicing effect. Lots of texture and separation. I can then kind of hold all the hair and go in a little bit deeper. Spread it out and get some even more separation in there. But again, you can see the angle short to long. You know, I think a lot of times people, they see this kind of technique and maybe they think, you know,
it's maybe a little aggressive. Does it hurt? Does the client feel it when you're?
In my experience, no. I mean, I've got good tension here and I'm just using the front of the blade. The most important thing is that it's a nice sharp blade and there really isn't a lot of pulling. I can feel in my fingers that it's quite gentle. I mean, if your blade was dull or you had to fight with it, that maybe would be a problem. But, you know, I mean, it's a great way to get this really shattered texture in a very kind of what feels like artistic way. It feels very fluid and kind of fun to do. Working down, maybe one last section right here below where the head curves. Let's see how much reaches, not too much at this point. Again, even though I'm reaching over the head, I'm trying not to over direct too much. I'm gonna stay in the same body position because it just feels more comfortable to work this from short to long from the back. So I'm gonna tilt the head like so. I can turn around so you guys can get a different angle here. And I'll take vertical section. Use the previous hair as a guideline. You see there's a guideline, there's enough shape and structure that there is a guideline or a reference point. And again, coming in here more vertically and working through. You know, a fun way to work with hair short. I don't personally see a lot of benefit to doing this on long hair. But you know, when it's short and you want this really kind of broken up texture, what a great way to do it. Vertical section or section from back to front. Here you can really see what I mean by on base. I'm trying not to comb into the center too much. Not trying to build a lot of weight towards the round of the head. Working with the feather styling razor, one of the most popular razors in the world. You know, many of you see me work with unguarded razors as well. I don't know that this would be a technique I'd want to do with an unguarded razor. So, you know, lots of tools, just like, you know, I've been seeing lots of barbers lately show all the different clippers that they have. And I'm the same. I've got lots of different types of razors, different types of scissors, and I like to kind of play and practice with them all the time. Okay, here's another fun thing. New kind of a clip. It's kind of a clip that has like a comb built into it. These are called the Barracuda clips. They'll be available at Hairbrain Pro soon. I just was introduced to them recently, and they're great for short hair like this when you want to just kind of work. You see, you kind of like take the comb and you can just comb that hair out of the way and just lock it in. So no real kind of struggling if you can't get that hair twisted up in your hand. So perfect for what I found working on short hair like this. Now this already had kind of a short bang. We might do a little bit more refining there, but more than that, I want to work internally, as I said, again, from short to long. So I'm in a position now where I'm not super comfortable working short to long. with this particular razor technique. So I'm going to change my body position around. So important. Let some of that front drop out. And again, just get that front elbow up a little higher. And literally what's going to happen here is this piece that's a little bit longer will fall over this piece that's a little bit shorter and just give more texture where we want it, right around the face. Go in a little bit deeper, work through. And again here, very important not to over-direct a lot, not trying to build a lot of weight or heaviness into those corners. I'll even kind of step into it and turn my hand a bit. So splicing, just using the front corner of the razor, something that, again, my friend Michael Polsinelli, someone that I think is an incredible hairdresser all around, but with razor cutting really has shown me lots of things that I really appreciate. And this is one of them. Again, just such a great way to work with short hair, to get that without having, not that there's anything wrong with working with the scissor, just a different way. And you know what? It is very, very comfortable to do. And it really does feel like you're kind of cutting with your fingers, just like your fingers are just kind of doing it. Very important that the hair is damp, and in this case, it's also prepared with a little Bumble and Bumble tonic, as well as some Bumble and Bumble grooming cream. That's another reason why, you know, back to Kelly's question, it doesn't pull on the hair in any excessive way. Coming into the opposite side and working through. Such a fun way to cut short hair. That fine balance between control, precision, and kind of chaos in a good way. Still see a guideline from the previous sections. I can go in here a little bit deeper as I work and work through into this corner. This was already, you know, short, as I said, from the previous haircut. The previous haircut was kind of a graduated one where I worked everything from the edges inside longer. So I kind of like this length, but I can do a little bit of twisting and flat razoring, which is a great way to get a really kind of shredded texture. Twisting and flat razoring. And actually I'll drop some of that previous hair on top of this and do the same with the hairs that fall over. I try to twist into the middle on both sides if I can remember. In all honesty, sometimes I don't. But just trying to be consistent with it. Twist in, twist in. But sometimes I don't, I'll be honest. Twist in. I hope everyone is, you know, I'm sure many of you guys are super busy today in the salon. I remember the days when I owned a salon, and you know, this was the kind of a wild time. I love it. I always think fondly of it, but I'm also glad that I have today off and I'm not working with clients. But for those of you that are, I hope it's a very prosperous season for you. This is the time to be busy and really make the most of it. And then typically for many of us, once January rolls around, things tend to get a little bit quieter, especially if you're in a cold weather place, because people tend to hibernate a little bit. And that's when you want to practice, practice, practice. That's when you can get new skills. That's when you want to get some great pivot point mannequins, like what I'm using here, Sarah. People always ask about the tripods, because you know what? You cannot really have a great learning experience with a mannequin. You can have a great mannequin and a bad tripod. It doesn't work. I'm telling you, it's so worth it to invest in a good tripod and then take care of it and have it for 20, 30 years, which is not unusual with a great pivot point tripod. This is a universal tripod, the Sarah Mannequin. And something I always say that one of the reasons why I'm so proud to have all these years been affiliated with Pivot Point is they're an ethical company. And what does that mean? They're actually certified. The things that they produce in China and other countries, all the factories that they work with, all the employees that they work with, there's a certification that shows they pay a fair living wage, and that the conditions are very humane, the way that they source the hair. You know, you may or may not know that there's a lot of challenges in sourcing hair through some of these countries. So, you know, in today's day and age, it's worth it to pay a few extra dollars, first of all, for the quality, because you're not going to find any better quality hair or tripods out there. And then to know that you're buying it from a country that's not using child labor, a company that's not using child labor. So I also wanted to say, you know, I believe it's today, I just saw it this morning, Pivot Point is 60 years old today. Started by legendary hairdresser Leo Passage, and still a family-owned company. For those of you, you know, we hear the name Pivot Point, and I don't know what you think, but you know it's this big name. It's still a family-run company. His son and grandchildren run it, and couldn't be prouder than to be affiliated with a company started by a hairdresser 60 years ago. Is still doing incredible things for our industry. So if you guys are out there, congratulations to all my friends at Pivot Point on your 60th year.
Now, what specifically makes it better quality, higher quality, besides
Great
the
question.
pain?
I mean,
what's specific about it?
Listen, so the first thing I'll say is if you've ever had a lesson on a bad mannequin, you'll know right away. You go to cut or do anything, the hair just sticks. First of all, the quality of the hair. It may be synthetic, it may be a bad mixture of synthetic and real hair. And you can't even razor cut synthetic hair, so that's the first thing is the hair. Second thing is the way that they implant it into the head. It's very, very realistic, so you can get real lessons. There's growth patterns and swirls without them just being kind of crazy. I've done, many times I've come in to do a class and, you know, perhaps they've cheaped out on the mannequins, and I know right then in the morning that it's not going to be a great class because there isn't much that I can teach. The hairlines won't behave, the hair won't respond, you can't put heat on it or style it. So it's the hair itself, it's the way it's implanted, it's the head shape. This is like a beautiful real head shape where sometimes you work on these mannequins that, you know, of course it's great to learn how to work on challenging head shapes, but some of the head shapes are not even human in any way. The proportions are off, and it makes all the difference. I mean, in all honesty, it happened to me not too long ago. Great group of people, great class, but as soon as I got there, I realized the mannequins were something they got on Amazon for cheaper, and I just knew, okay, I'm gonna kind of have to just fake it in a way, because there's no way, I knew I couldn't do short hair, nothing like this, no way, because it'd just be insane. Rex agrees. Those of you that have been watching, you know, oh, here he comes, he wants to say hello. All right, boy, go lay down, good boy. Okay, we're gonna come into the sides now. As you can see, it was already short around the edges. The last haircut I did then built all that length inside. So I will probably keep the edges where they are. We'll come through the sides now. Got a good angle there, Kel? Mm-hmm. Working diagonal back and just finding that length from the top and the length from the edge. And this is another where I'm practicing. I've never tried to do splicing like this before. Again, it's a guarded blade, very important for you guys to see through here and see. That's the whole idea of this program that we've been doing for many years with our friends at Pivot Point, is that professionals need to keep practicing. So I'll be honest, I've never done this way before, but I like the effect. It feels a little bit awkward to hold it that way, but sometimes that's, you know, whenever we try something new, it feels a little awkward. You can see my length from the top and my length at the bottom. I pretty much want to keep those. And again, a lot of times people feel maybe uncomfortable taking off small amounts with the razor, but I think once I get a nice groove here, and I can come from the front of it or the back of it, still trying to figure out which way I like the best. And trying to get it real vertical. I think I need to get it a little bit more with the grain of the hair. Yeah, so this series, Professionals Who Practice, we probably started well over 5 years ago, and the idea was, you know, even if you're someone, I've taught thousands of classes on razor cutting, but there's always going to be things that I see people do or that I think, hey, I wonder if this could or would work, that I'm going to want to try. And perhaps the best way to try that is get yourself a great quality mannequin like the Sarah here and practice it. So, I mean, I'm liking that. It does feel a little awkward. I'm still trying to get the comfort zone of how to do it properly, but I do like it. And I know it's going to give me the texture and the edge and the hair that I'm looking for. Now, again, this was all layered through, so there'll probably just be a little bit of length. You can see it if you begin to look at hair even when it's wet. This is what I want and this is what I want. This is where it's way too bulky from the previous haircut. Let's see how it feels this way. Ah, okay. This feels the best, actually. So there you go. I've just practiced, and I wasn't even thinking about it, but I was thinking that it didn't feel quite right, and that feels the best. This way. So I am gently kind of putting, there's a guard there, the blade is in there. You probably could cut yourself this way, so you do have to be aware of how hard you're pressing your thumb against it. I don't need to press very hard, just enough to trap the hair in there. And again, you know, I could see where, you know, this may be something you think, oh, I don't want to try that, or I don't want to do that. I really would stick to something like this on short hair, where I really want a rough texture in the hair. You know, if my goal was to have smooth, shiny, like blown out, healthy, bouncy hair, I don't know that this is the best approach for that. But that's not what I want here. I want short, tousled, rough, scruffy texture in the hair. So this will definitely give me that. Keeping that hair damp, and look at that shape coming through. So there's no doubt here that even though the actual cutting method is rough and scruffy, I'm still thinking about sections. Oh, let's use these clips again. I want to try them again, practicing. So you can come in, and even on short hair like this that may be very difficult to clip, and just push it, and look at that. So created by a hairdresser, Rob, I think it's Bergio, a new friend of mine that I met in Amsterdam, actually. And he said, listen, I made these clips, man. I want you to check them out. So first thing I did is looked at people on Instagram that were using them, and I was like, this looks pretty cool, especially for things like this, short hair, color applications. So we'll have some coming in soon. Every time that we've used them or displayed them, people have been very interested. You can see the benefit for something like this. It can be so hard to clip hair like this, and you can't do a lot of pre-sectioning, but if I can just take a clean section, begin to push that out of the way, there's a comb on there, and you just comb it and push it. So nifty little creation there. Barracuda clips. You can see again, the length from the crown, this little bit of excess bulk here, and using this splicing technique. Still getting comfortable with the angle, but you can see the result. You can see the whole short shape cut this way. I'll probably do one more section, cross over the middle, and come back and do the opposite side, and it'll be that simple. You know, but for me, it was a great opportunity to practice. And you know, that's really what it comes down to, right? It's the little things. Let's see, overhand here. Another way of doing this. And this really does feel more comfortable with this splicing technique. Overhand feels very natural. Working palm to palm, a little more challenging, but challenging is good. Come through. Just so you can really kind of get like a rhythm to it. That's the idea here. Great opportunity to practice. 60 years is really impressive. You know, there's a lot of things in hairdressing that are popular, but they kind of come and go, maybe a couple of years, salons, brands. 60 years of, and especially focused on education. You know, Pivot Point, obviously educational tools, educational programs, school programs, all, you know, something that I really personally would be my dream to emulate. All right, so on this side in the front, there's not too much to come off. Again, kind of got it. I'll turn around so you get a better angle, Kel. This is kind of almost where it needs to be right here. This is that little bit harder angle that I'm still trying to kind of get comfortable with. Again, there are many ways to use a razor. Normally, in my kind of normal repertoire, what would I do? I would come in here and I'd probably work with what I call flat razoring, and I'd work that way. So I could also work with edge razoring if I wanted a different kind of texture in the hair. But again, if you're listening with the sound on here, you'll know that I'm talking about practicing new things. That's the whole beauty of this series that's sponsored by Pivot Point. It's even though I've been cutting hair for 32 years, I realize there's things that I haven't done, and there's things that are new, or even things that are old that I've never tried, and I need to keep trying them. And grabbing yourself a great mannequin like a Sarah here, beautiful texture, great head shape for learning and practicing, setting up on a tripod that actually is stable and works, and again, isn't a toy, which sometimes they are. You know, if it's on Amazon for 20 bucks, trust me, it's not what you want for professional learning. Working my way through. And as I said earlier, the overhand, definitely more comfortable with this technique. And for what I'm doing here, I can work in different hand positions. But probably that would be my takeaway. I can work it palm to palm like that, but it just doesn't feel like I have the same relationship with the hair. Comb clip, Barracuda clip, just boom, and clip it. Look at that. Pretty cool stuff. That one right there. So for short hair cutting, again, feeling very natural overhand, so why fight it at this point? Trying to keep that blade vertical with the grain of the hair and use just a gentle pressure between my thumb and the blade. And work my way across section by section. We're preparing for Thanksgiving here, so this is just a quick haircut in between all the preparations. Very excited to have friends and family. Hairbrain co-founder Randy Taylor coming over tomorrow. We've got a lot to be thankful for. We really do. You know, our industry is back. We're all in fairly good shape, even, you know, with any challenges of the economy or the previous kind of shutdowns. Hey, at least we're open and able to keep doing what we need to do. So a lot to be thankful for in this industry. Coming across. And again, if I do feel like maybe, you know, it's kind of amazing. You feel like you're working so freeform, but look, there is shape there. If I come and check it in a more traditional way, you can see that there's shape there. If you get your hands in there, you can see that there's shape and balance. But all that comes from, you know, I would never say to anyone, hey, you've never cut hair or you want to do your first haircut, try this. You know, I think this is for people that really already understand and are accomplished at maybe the fundamentals of cutting, precision geometrics, because that's the key to everything. Once you have that down, that's when you can do all your what ifs. And I'll be honest, sometimes your what ifs don't work, but it's better than doing things the same way forever. You got to try new things, challenge yourself. And if they don't work, well, hey, it's a Sarah mannequin and you can practice some clipper cuts on it or something else. That's the beauty of what we do here. Another fun way of checking this, a little bit over the comb. So just kind of lifting over the comb. Obviously not very precise, but we don't want precise. We want to just rough this up and kind of put in some different lengths in the edges. A little twisting and flat razoring around the swirl of the crown here. Twisting and flat razoring. Keep this length here so that the crown is still controllable, but not so much density. That twisting really gives a nice irregularity. Yeah, you can always check through. Look at this. This is kind of remarkable, really, when you think about the way that that was cut, that there actually is a lot of shape there based on body position and control of the blade. If you do find an excessively long piece, you can just grab it like that. And if your shape is off, then you go back to the original. And you know what? If you feel like you're really out of control, then you can switch back to your scissor, you know, as you're practicing. So I'm loving the shape that's here. You know, the roundness through there, the looseness on the edges. You can see how well these hair behaves on the forehead. I think a lot of times we'd be terrified to do something like this on a mannequin because you think it would just stick straight out into the air. But that really shows the way that they're implanted in. Coming through, a little bit more free-form work. I'm gonna add a little bit of product. This would be a great time to do that. Some more grooming cream from my friends at Bumble and Bumble.
Getting a little low there, Gerard.
Yes, I need to stock up. It's one of my favorite products. I almost never razor cut without it. Just a nice kind of moisturizing cream, keeps the hair damp, and helps to bring out the texture without getting sticky or hard or any of that.
You got some support from Ava Broadwater. She's loving it.
Well, thank you. It's always nice to get support. It's not always the case on social media, as we know, but we love support. So just a little finishing touches here. Again, you can see the concept of the shape, kind of rounded, spliced through, 2 panels that were short to long, then diagonal back in the kind of a form of a short round graduation, but using splicing and now this kind of free-form razoring, really to just get the refinements that I want. Normally with something like this, I wouldn't do any massive blow drying. I would just kind of work it until it's dry with my fingers. Maybe use the blow dryer on low air and push it around for a few moments, but nothing too much.